Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is Carrie Basham Young, and we're going to get started in just another minute. Thanks for being on time. This might be your last chance to grab a quick cup of coffee or check your last email, and we'll get started shortly. All right, well, we are going to get started. I'm going to hand it over to Denise from Facebook to welcome everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Liu. I'm on the customer success team at Workplace, and I'm super excited today to have Carrie from Talk Social to Me share tips and tricks and new features in Workplace to kind of get your community engaged. Carrie has over 20 years of experience driving communications and community engagement online and offline for enterprise companies and organizations. So we're super excited to have her today to talk a little bit more about how to get an A in Workplace.
All right, thank you. So we are really excited to be here. I'm actually in the Facebook New York offices, which is really fun for me. And so we are doing a little back to school themed workplace webinar today because, you know, it was a long summer and Workplace is back in action at your organization. And we know that sometimes people come back to Workplace after a long summer and we need to get a little bit of life back into it. So as we all go back to school, we are going to take some of our learnings from getting ourselves or our kids back to school and apply it to Workplace. So a quick little introduction about me. Denise told you who I am. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm thrilled to be in New York. And I would like to let you all know that you can find me on Twitter. You can find me in any of the Workplace multi-company groups. You can stalk the Talk Social to Me team there. We're always happy to help you. I'd also like to give a quick public service announcement that if those of you who don't live in California come visit us, you will see this sign posted all over the place. And our PSA is avocado theft is a crime. So we in California take our avocados and our avocado toast very, very seriously. So make sure when you come visit us, you don't steal avocados off of those trees. Now, a little bit about my background in school. I was the teacher's pet in school, and I could admit that now. I'm old enough to where I'm no longer self-conscious about it, but I was that person who hung out with the English teachers after school and on the weekends at the local pizza parlor. I memorized every preposition that there is in the 7th grade in alphabetical order and can still recite them to you today. But at the same time, I was really, really bad in all things science and not so great in math. So I can talk to you about prepositions and communities, but I can't talk to you about anything, mitosis, meiosis, or the periodic table. But if I learned anything in school, getting ready for school every year from kindergarten all the way through grad school, it's do what you're good at, do what you love. And we love communities, and that's why we're here to give you some of our best learnings about Workplace and how to deploy it and how to sort of reinvigorate it after a long summer. So Talk Social to Me, we've worked with a lot of different organizations doing that, and we've seen communities do well and we've seen them fail. So our learnings are not just from a textbook, if you will, they are from real life applications with customers doing great things and customers who needed a bit of a boost. So welcome back to school. It is September. I'm curious, did anyone else here cheer when school started? I love my 8-year-old son. He's wonderful, but by the end of the summer, it was definitely time for him to be back in school so that I could focus on my work. I'm excited that there's pumpkin spice lattes everywhere. And I think that most organizations and most chief workplace officers go, it's the end of August. It's the beginning of September. Workplace is going to just be right back in action. But in reality, it doesn't always happen that way. We know that people are often very, very sad to no longer be playing with their friends and families and kids and animals in the summer. Working can be really, really hard when you still have that beach glow, a little too much sunscreen still on your skin. And when you come back and we start thinking about, boy, that summer was fun, the inbox is overflowing, maybe our boss is still on vacation and we're not. It's really easy to forget about workplace. This is very, very common. A lot of organizations see a big dip in their community usage right around the end of summer. People are working on budgets, and workplace often takes a bit of an engagement dive, and that's because it's not necessarily mature at your organization yet. So we want to get you back into action and make sure that it is engaging as you move into the end of the year. So we're going to give you 10 back to school lessons that are just like the lessons we've taught our kids recently on how to get ready for school, things that we have done to get them ready for school. The same things that apply to school apply to workplace. Now, as we go through this list, if you have any questions that you want us to answer at the end, in the GoToWebinar screen, there's a little chat box in the bottom right-hand corner. It's a gray bar that says chat. You can click on that and then send a chat message to organizers or everybody, and then Denise from Facebook at the end is going to take those questions and we'll answer them here live for you. So the first tip that we have is clean out your closet. Clean out workplace before you go back to school shopping. Now, you probably don't go buy your kids a bunch of new clothes before you look and see what still fits. When I sent my son to school on the first day, he put his pants on and I realized they were 3 inches over his ankle because he had grown so much throughout the summer. Workplace is no different. You want to go through and clean out the closet, get organized, and make sure that as you're asking people to get re-engaged in the community, there's stuff there that they want to see. We know, especially over the summer, if you've been gone and haven't been monitoring, that people can create groups, hundreds, sometimes even thousands of groups, and it's doubtful that all of these groups are going to be active or truly valuable. You're probably going to find a lot of duplication. So we really recommend performing a group cleanup, and you can go through and consolidate, clean up, make sure that you've got a lot of activity in the right places. That also is going to mean that new users who come on in new waves as you bring them on after the summer, they're going to have a good first time impression. So we recommend creating a group cleanup policy, and you can kind of decide what that looks like, but whether it's closing down groups or asking groups to be reinvigorated with no activity after 60 days, after 90 days, it's kind of up to you and your appetite for that. But we recommend figuring out that plan. We recommend reaching out directly to the admins of the groups that are not very active and seeing what their plans are. And then we recommend posting that group policy somewhere so that everybody can see. If a group is going to be archived or closed down, we recommend pinning a note to the top of the group that says, this group is going to be archived on whatever date, and the place for you to go for all relevant conversations on this topic is X, and direct them to the active group that's going to be curated. If you need some more details on where to start your closet cleanup, your group cleanup, we suggest starting with groups that have 2 or fewer members, 3 or fewer members. Those probably aren't very active, and those that, again, have not been having a lot of activity in 60 or 90 days. The next lesson is sit with new friends in the cafeteria. When we all go back to school, we've all had moments, maybe we're at a new school or we've jumped from middle school to high school and we don't know who to sit with in the cafeteria. It's really daunting when you walk into the cafeteria with your lunch tray and you look around and nobody makes eye contact with you. So we recommend for workplace users and chief workplace officers that you sit with the new kids. And what we mean by that is this isn't just your job alone. And so often we see that 1 or 2 people in one department, all the weight of a workplace launch is falling on their shoulders. And in the reality, collaboration and communication is everyone's responsibility. So we want you to sit at the cafeteria table with HR, with IT, with marketing, with legal, with talent, and bring everybody to have a collaborative approach to workplace so that you can scale your efforts. It shouldn't all fall to your shoulders. Now, at the same time, you want to sit with the new kids in the cafeteria, not just at the full table. So if you see new people joining workplace, you want to welcome them, invite them into the network, invite them into certain groups, say hello, make sure that these new users have a good first experience. That's how I would want my son to be welcomed into a new school, and that's how I hope that chief workplace officers would welcome new members into their organization. The third lesson, and how many of you remember being told this over and over, and how many of you say this to your own kids today? Don't forget to use your inside voice. One of the things that we like to tell our customers over and over is workplace is a hearing aid, not a megaphone. And one of the things that we also see happening quite often is organizations are using Workplace to post announcements, to broadcast, to sort of give these top-down communications that maybe were previously on your intranet new life in Workplace. And that's all well and good, but we can't do it exclusively without letting employees have their own voice. We have to stop shouting at employees and make sure that they can hear each other in the classroom. We know that inside an organization where employees are intrinsically motivated, so when they are able to work on projects that they love, when they are engaged with their peers, when they feel good about their work, and when they can do it in a way that makes sense for them, we know that they are 32% more committed to the organization, 46% more satisfied with their jobs, and they perform 16% higher than employees who aren't intrinsically motivated. So instead of just using Workplace as a broadcast tool from the front of the classroom or from the playground with the whistle, make sure that employees are able to collaborate and connect around things that really make them feel important. So it's definitely critical to get that peer-to-peer conversation going. Number 4, teachers are your secret sauce. Now, we know that teachers are some of the most hardworking people in the entire world. They aren't just in the classroom from 8:30 until 2:30 when our kids are sitting there. They're in early every day. They're grading papers every day. They are tutoring our kids at lunch and after school. They're going out and buying school supplies for our kids. Teachers are amazing heroes that are fantastic. And we also know that inside Workplace, teachers or the leaders of your group, the people who are actually in charge of creating groups, managing them, and driving engagement are the secret sauce of Workplace. So we know that inside the organization, middle management tends to be the teacher role. They're the critical link. They're the ones who are going to bring their teams and their departments on to Workplace. So we need to help convince them to shift certain different kinds of behavior. Maybe it's emails, newsletters, monthly reports from another medium like email into Workplace. So we want these teachers to know how to use Workplace, what works, what doesn't work. And it's time for you to sit down with each of these teachers and say, this is how we think you should be using Workplace. How do you want us to help you learn Workplace? And make sure that they're empowered so that they can go and handle Workplace with their constituents and answer questions for you. It's going to help you scale your rollout. We also want to help our group leaders or our teachers walk the talk, and that is they're going to be the person that everyone looks to for the right kinds of behavior. So make sure that they're empowered and they know how to do good posts, how to schedule things, and how to be engaging inside the network rather than just broadcasting. Now, we also know that inside any school, it's not just the teachers, but there's a principal. There is a headmaster or a headmistress. There's somebody who's responsible at the senior level for the entire school. And that's no different than Workplace because we know that executives are critical to how Workplace works. But we often hear that my executives, my C-levels, don't want to participate. Maybe they're too busy, maybe they're not tech savvy and they don't use this Facebook thing in their personal lives. Why do we have it at work? Maybe they just don't want to add another tool to their day. But at the same time, they were probably the ones that have said, well, we need more engagement and we need better communication at this organization. So they really need to come in and learn how to use Workplace. And right now in the back to school season, it's a perfect time to sit down with them and teach them how to engage in Workplace. So a couple of the things that I like to recommend for executives or your principals is make it really easy and concrete for them to understand. It can be daunting for an executive of an organization with 1,000 people, maybe 50,000 people, to look at this network and go, everybody is going to see what I say here. I'm used to my chief of staff writing my posts for me. So my idea is make it concrete and give your leaders one simple task over a certain time period and offer to help them and make it not overwhelming. So you could suggest that your senior leader, maybe it's your chief marketing officer, opens up a group. You can help him or her open the group and ask one question about ideas. What have you seen our competitors do? And I'm going to be taking answers for the next week. So create a small space for them, give them a time-bound option, and make sure that everyone's expectations are set, that this leader is here for now, but they're not always going to be in the network consistently going back and forth. Work to your leader's style. If they're more comfortable with social and technology, you can broaden that kind of approach. Number two is don't just talk about workplace. Workplace is a great, fantastic conduit for the work that's being done, but help your leader understand that, well, yes, workplace is the tool, but it's really a place where people are engaging and connecting and sharing ideas. And you should look in here and see all the connections being made, the ideas people are creating. So talk about the value to your leaders, not just the tool itself. And then the third recommendation I would have to get your principal, your CEO on board is talk about the other executives that are already doing this. Your leader, as much as they might fear this, is not the first leader to ever participate inside workplace. Two really good stories that I can think of, or examples I can think of, are Jim Laurie, who is the CEO of Stanley Black & Decker, and Daniel Ek of Spotify. Both of these organizations are using Workplace with really, really great success, and both of these CEOs are using it pretty much on a daily or weekly basis. And what I think is really interesting about these two companies is that Stanley Black & Decker is a very, very old, 150-year-old organization, very brick and mortar, and Spotify is a young startup in hypergrowth changing the music industry. Two completely separate kinds of organizations, but both of which have a CEO involved on Workplace heavily. So if both of these different kinds of organizations can do it, your CEOs can do it too, your CMOs can do it too, and these stories will help bring them on board. Now, one of the things that you can show them, and this is a new feature that I think resonates really well with senior leaders, is draft posts. And Workplace recently introduced these. The idea is that if you want to write something, but you're not ready to schedule it, and you're not ready to put something out there without others looking or maybe reviewing in the morning, you can save a draft post just for yourself and you can push it live when you're ready. So for executives who are just taking their first baby steps into, okay, I'm going to type my own message for the very first time, these draft posts give them the ability to do that and have someone else come and check it before they go live. Now, going back to school doesn't just mean you're going back into the classroom. It also means it's time for sports. And one of the things that I learned this year is that my son, who is going to be playing third grade soccer, is I'm going to have no life as a parent for the next 8 weeks because there's practices every day and games every weekend. But we all know that our kids love sports and it's really important. So there's two things though, how sports relates to back to school. Number one is, one of the things I've also learned is not every kid makes the baseball team. And we've learned that inside workplace or any collaborative behavior, there's a certain number of people that actually work well together to collaborate and create outcomes. And after you get to a certain point, the team structure just doesn't work. That's why on a baseball team, there's only a certain number of people. You can't have people all over the field. You wouldn't have teamwork. So we know that based on research from MIT, that the optimal team size for collaboration is between 4 to 10 members. So what that means is when you're thinking about talking about workplace to your teams, you want to encourage them to use the appropriate mechanism on workplace to get work done. If you have a small team of 4, 6, 10 people, they have a couple of options. They can create a teams and projects group and collaborate there, or they could even use work chat and create a group chat to get work done. They have a choice of mechanism. Maybe they want to use both. But what's really important for you as a chief workplace officer is you don't want to oversubscribe people to those groups. So if you've got a team that's effectively working well together in workplace, don't just auto add people to these groups. Don't just say, oh, you're in marketing, you should join that marketing project group. Make sure that your teams are given safe spaces to collaborate on their own. The second piece is sports can be fun, right? Sports, you're not going to win every game, but it's still going to be a good time. Maybe you're going to have a pizza party after your game. Make sure that people are allowed to, as is appropriate for your organization, have social dialogue, interest dialogue inside workplace. And that can take on a lot of different flavors. It could be people who love to run, people who love to garden, people who are organizing your company's 5K challenge. Anything that, again, fits within your culture and fits within your company's feeling, your company's policies, making sure that it doesn't, talk about something that you have already prohibited. a lot of organizations say, well, workplace is about work. I don't want it to just be about social. And there has to be a balance, but we also know that if people are a little bit nervous about coming into workplace and collaborating, they will often take the first step in a social place, get validation, and then feel comfortable starting to collaborate. So I'm going to throw it over to Denise really quick. She's got 2 new features from Workplace, People Sets and Synced Team Chats that she's going to share with us because this relates into team collaboration.
Yeah, so we're super excited to be sharing 2 new features, as Carrie mentioned. People Sets is for the system admins and provides the ability to more easily organize the people in your organization. So you can organize by location, you can organize by department, and they're going to continue to build on this. But by creating people sets, you can easily organize the people within the groups. And if you're onboarding and provisioning new users, you don't have to do that as manually because they're already in the people set and it'll automatically be added into that set that you create. So check that out. When you go into the admin panel under people, you'll see the people set tab. Great new feature. The other thing we have is called synced chat. When you create a groups, teams, and projects group, automatically you'll also have a synced chat. So you can easily have the ability to chat with that group that you created in a work chat environment. So really easy to continue to collaborate beyond that group in a work chat environment.
Great, thank you. So moving on, the next recommendation we have as you get back to school is leverage your A students. So after the summer, maybe, the classrooms are a little bit unruly, maybe some, you've got a lot of work to do in workplace with group cleanup and working with your leaders. Well, you want to leverage your A students that know their stuff. And so what that means for you is leveraging the champions and advocates and end users who are power users and who truly get it and empowering them to help them do some of this work for you. Champions are great, advocates are great because they influence others, they teach others. They don't have any formal responsibility per se for workplace. It's not like they're a group leader where they're the head of marketing and they have to use workplace for their team. A champion is someone who is on your side, who understands social technology, who wants to help, and who will go and sort of spread the good news, spread the word about workplace to others on your behalf. So there's 2 different kinds of people, A students, that you want to leverage. And the first one are these champions that I'm talking about. And there's a few different ways to find them. Number 1 is you can just observe and say, you know what, these are the most engaged people. I see this person all the time. He or she always has great comments, or they're always starting really provocative conversations. They're constantly supporting workplace. You can observe them. You can go into the admin panel and see sort of which conversations are trending and who started those. That's one way to do it. Number 2 is actually nominating them. In a lot of organizations, being a workplace champion is a little bit of a badge of honor. And so have senior leaders or department leads recommend these sort of key social influencers and key connectors to become a champion. Now, remember, just because someone holds a certain title doesn't mean that they're going to be a champion. Your VPs or maybe even your senior directors aren't always going to be the best champions because they're really busy. But if you have someone even more junior who is really respected and who's maybe high potential, that's the kind of profile to look for in a champion that gets nominated. This will help them with their career, and this will help you scale your adoption efforts. And then the third one is targeting champions. So reach out to existing leaders in your organization, existing managers, and start pitching workplace to them. If you know that they're doing really great work, but they're not using workplace, go to them directly, one-on-one, sit down, show them how workplace works, show them other use cases, and say, I'd really like to bring you on. Can we help you? Can we make you a champion of this for your team and get you onto workplace? So give them that kind of white glove consultation, and that will help as well. So once you've found these champions, you need to sort of create a champions program. Maybe create a group for them where they can collaborate with each other, give them the chance to put it on their workplace profile that they are a champion, give them some sort of recognition for their work. The other kind of A student that you want to think about is an advocate. This is someone who is a little bit different than a champion in that Maybe they're not going to be in workplace every day, but the biggest benefit of an advocate is they have the ear of senior leaders. So if you're having trouble getting your senior leaders on board and you don't feel like you're able to go to them directly, find these advocates, these chiefs of staff, maybe an executive assistant, maybe somebody very high up in the organization that you've known through your career, and use them to sort of funnel information about workplace and get the ear of the executives. These advocates influence up and influence down. They're going to help you get to those executives. All right, now we're going to go all the way back to preschool. So we're going to do one of the very first lessons that we probably all learned is let's learn to count 1, 2, 3. And the reason that we bring this up is oftentimes for leaders or for any busy person, they say, okay, so what does it actually mean? What do you want me to do in workplace? Make it tangible, make it concrete. How many times do you want me to post? And this is what a leader most likely is going to say to you. So what we know from our friend and partner Swoop Analytics, they provide workplace analytics on the back end, and they've done a benchmarking study of many, many different workplace networks. So they have the data that informs this. And we know from their research that it's easy as 1, 2, 3. So leaders or anyone who wants to build engagement should consider every week 1 post, 2 comments, and 3 likes. That's as easy as it gets. What that means is that's the kind of collaborative behavior, that's the kind of ratio of posts to comments and reactions that is going to start driving engagement. You don't want to be a person that has 10 posts, 2 comments, and 0 likes. You want the balance to start with posts in the beginning, a few more comments, and a few more reactions. We know that as you comment and as you react to other people's content, they're going to be they're going to want to post more. We know that that behavior is there. So that's what that ratio is, 1, 2, 3. We're going to jump from preschool all the way up to high school or maybe even college. I was the student where I never liked it when a teacher called on me. I was always petrified, kind of hiding in the back going, no, 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 don't call on me. But I was okay asking questions in class. And that's the kind of behavior that we want your users to do and feel safe doing. And it ties into back to school because that's how we get all of our questions answered. So we know, again, from Swoop Analytics and their benchmarking report, that threads inside Workplace that include a question, so literally a question mark, when they're saying, what do you think about this, rather than a broadcasting post, we know that those questions get 250% more engagement than just a plain old sentence or a broadcast. So for every question that's out there, on average, you're going to get 4.5 to 5.5 responses, whereas a regular old post, just sharing something, 1.5 to 2 responses. So if you're looking to drive engagement, tell people to ask questions. We also know that this is one of the easiest, lowest hanging fruit things that we can do, because inside Workplace, 90% of posts on average do not contain a question. Only 10% are questions right now. So we worry about people don't know what to post. We worry about people aren't going to know what to say. If you ask a question, you're basically giving them a prompt for how to answer. And so we can take these 90% of posts that don't have questions and very quickly turn those into more engaging posts. Number 9, using the scientific method. Now, I know I don't have a lot of credibility in the science area because I already told you that I basically failed science, but we do recommend using the scientific method when rolling out Workplace. One of the things that we know, especially if you're in internal communications, is that traditionally executive communications, leadership communications are highly polished, highly crafted, highly curated, and they come into email, intranet, whatever it might be, with a beautiful bow on top of it, right? There's a lot of fear around publishing authentic, kind of off-the-cuff communications. But we know that that's not the way to go. And so we believe that when you roll out Workplace, you should be okay with a little bit of uncertainty, creating hypotheses for, we think this is going to work, but we're not totally sure, and we're going to try it. That's the spirit of Workplace in creating this more collaborative, open culture. And we know that this scientific method works. So we've worked with an organization, a real estate firm, and they wanted to reduce or actually remove their CEO announcement emails. They had a lot of emails going on, and they decided, well, we're kind of afraid of getting rid of this because we don't think that people are going to see it in Workplace. And the answer to them was, you don't know until you try. So their hypothesis was, okay, we believe that we are going to get 70% of people seeing the CEO update in Workplace rather than email. And so they started doing it. The customer started putting out their biweekly highlights and insights inside Workplace. And over a few weeks, we did start to see that number. So lots and lots of people seeing the CEO update, and they did achieve that 70% view. So it's something where it didn't hit 70% the first time, even the second time, but with a little bit of trial and error and tweaking. Do we want images? Do we want it in a doc? Do we want to upload a file? Is it a post? We figured out the right way to get to all of that critical mass of eyeballs that we wanted to see. So it's not going to be perfect in Workplace, but keep trying, keep experimenting. It's okay. Your posts don't have to be wrapped up with a bow. Now, our final piece of advice today, and I will encourage you, if you have questions, now's the time to type it into the chat box. Don't give up if you don't make varsity. So if you're like me, you want to be the best at everything you do. And that can be sports, that can be Workplace, whatever it might be. But one of the back to school lessons that we've all had to learn in our life is you're not always going to be the best, but you have lots of choices on how you want to take that next step to get better. And so when we are thinking about Workplace, it's not going to be the most perfect, successful launch that anyone has ever seen on day one. That's the thing. You don't make the varsity quarterback role as a freshman coming in, right out of, junior high school. You've got to work and you've got to try and you've got to experiment, and it's going to take time. And so if you think about, if you don't make the varsity team, you can either go home and cry. You can work really, really hard, but then sort of fall off and then, make the JV team, or you can work your rear end off to get stronger, get better, and then you make the varsity team the next year. And this is the same philosophy that we take with Workplace. You're not going to run the track overnight. You've got to start walking, and then you jog, and then you can run. With Workplace, most people have not been working with employee communities for as long as we have, or for as long as they've been out on the market. So it's okay, and it's not going to be perfect. So when you introduce Workplace, you want to bring it in a way that makes sense for your organization. You don't necessarily want to launch to 100,000 people all at once. You want to test the waters, find out what works, find what doesn't work, and then iterate from there. Bring people into Workplace in a way that they're going to find business value. It doesn't mean that you have to have this big, amazing launch. It means you want to work towards getting to these adoption numbers, work towards getting to varsity. All right, with that, we are going to move to a couple of the questions that have come in. Again, you still have a little bit of time to put them into the chat session. And for those of you who are here, we're really glad you're here. We will be sending out a recording if your colleagues couldn't make it. So just know that that'll be available to you if you want to share this with them as well.
So we have a couple of questions on the line. The first question is from Cassandra. Is there a tool inside the platform that tells me which groups aren't active after a certain time period? A report I can run.
It's a good question. So if you're a Workplace Premium customer, in the admin panel, there are two different reports that you can download, a people and a groups report. And there are ways that you can see all that different kind of data inside there. You have to sort of kill some of the columns, and there's a lot more than you need. But yes, you can get in there and see which groups are active over the past, I think it's a 28-day period that the reports show. We recommend, given how the reports work, that you download these every 28 days or every day on the same month. So, sorry, every month on the same day, because the report's only going to give you the past 28 days. So if you want to start creating a baseline and checking what did January versus February versus March look like, download those reports at the same time every month to give yourself the ability to track those. If you want to see some hacks that we have created to help you understand which groups are more active versus others. Inside Workplace, there is an MCG called the Workplace Community Engagement Bootcamp, and that's run by my team. It's where people come and just sort of ask questions about Workplace, and we've actually got some formulas in there that you can take home and use to calculate with these different exports, sort of the different kinds of activities happening in those groups. So if you would like to join, you can email me. My email's up on the screen, and we'll get you an invitation into that group, and you can download the reports to help you.
That's great. That's really helpful. Thanks, Carrie. Just to add to that, if you're a group admin, you can also go into your group, click on the More tab, and then you can get group insights up to 60 days as well. So there's a way for group admins to also see data. Moving on to the second question. Can I have a draft post for a specific group?
So I think whenever I've used the draft post recently, I've done them in a group. I mean, 99% of the posts that I create are in a group, just because that's how, Workplace is really structured, is on a group level. So you should be able to go and create a message in any group that you're a part of and then save it as a draft. So these posts aren't just on your profile, but rather already living in a group, so that when you publish it, it's going to go to the members of that particular group.
Great. And then next question, how do you educate staff in large global organizations and workplace on best practices? Also, we're having problem with email notifications. What are your suggestions in keeping these numbers down?
It's a good question. So I'll take that in two parts. How do you educate staff in a large global organization? This is where your champions and your group leaders come in. You cannot do it all. And in a global organization, we know that there are cultural and language differences that make it really hard for one or two people to educate everybody. So my philosophy is really sort of a hub and spoke model, where you're the central trainer essentially, and you need to find champions and group leaders all over the globe for different use cases. You train individuals or small teams one-on-one, and then they go and train and share best practices to others. A best practice in a certain part of the world may not be replicated in another part of the world. Every employee group is going to kind of create their own workflows and hacks. So I would definitely recommend working with one or two representatives from each region or each country, however your organization is delineated, and make sure that they are trained and that they can train their people and that they can sort of find the best practices and share them back with you, because you just don't have time to deal with thousands and thousands of different people. Regarding notifications, it's one of the most common things that we hear about in Workplace, and we know it's very challenging. So what I like to do is, if you haven't launched Workplace, we definitely recommend creating sort of a message that, hey, we know you're going to start to get a lot of notifications, but you can customize them. Just because on day one you get 20 email notifications doesn't mean it has to be that way. So we like going out there up front and saying, we know that this is going to happen. Number two is we like to create guides that we can give to people, whether it's a video tutorial, 30-second video, or a PDF, or both, where you can say, hey, here is exactly how to customize your notifications, one, per group, two, in aggregate, which you can do in the settings area of your profile. You can go in and change the notification settings for all of your group. Take some screenshots, show people where to go, and show them what it means if you click all, highlights, or off. But that way, they know that there's a challenge here and that they know that there's a solution. There is no way to turn them all off in bulk. It's just not possible. So we have to kind of manage around it. All right. So those are all the questions that we have for today. I want to thank you all for joining and for being with us today on our Back to School Bootcamp webinar. Again, email me if you'd like to get into the Workplace multi-company group, or you can message me on Workplace if you're already in there, and we'll get you in. Again, this recording will be sent out. We really appreciate your time, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining.